Before we start today's episode, I want to talk about our new sponsor, Cosa Nostra Brand. Go to CosaNostraBrand.com and join the family with all the merch that's on sale. So order your gear now and join the family.
Today, we're sitting down with one of the most respected names in wrestling, a true ECW original and former WWE Cruiserweight standout. From the streets of the full-blooded Italians to the bright lights of the WWE, he's seen it all. Right out of Jersey welcomes Little Guido, also known as Nunzio.
What's up? How you doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. You look great, by the way. For your age, you look great, and you're still wrestling. I mean, how do you feel? I've taken all the bumps.
Yeah, I feel good. I'm not wrestling that often,
Yep.
I've been, managing a little bit too, but I've been doing some shows and stuff. But I'm careful at what I do.
No injuries. No injuries. Knock on wood.
Yeah, I got nagging injuries through the years, that bother me now and stuff like that. But thank God, no new injuries. But I wouldn't trade it in. But it's just stuff that we do to our bodies for 30 years, and this is what you end up with,
Yeah.
I'm okay. At least I could walk around and stuff like that. Other people are not so lucky, unfortunately.
Yeah. Did you grow up a wrestling fan?
Oh yeah, I grew up a wrestling fan. I started watching wrestling when I was 1981, 81. I started. So I was like 8, 9 years old. I lived in New York, so I used to get 12 o'clock at night on Channel 9, then on Saturday nights, and then also Saturday mornings used to be on like 11 o'clock.
Yeah, it used to be up here in the Jersey area.
Back when I started, was the first, people I used to see was like Superstar Billy Graham. At the time, was still the champion, but he was doing the bald gimmick. I never knew the blonde-headed Billy Graham yet until I got into the business and all the back then. I didn't know when I was 11 years old that Billy Graham was bald. That's why as time went on, and I became a huge fan. I realized, oh, that's the same guy. He used to have blonde hair, but because he started in 77, 78, that's when he was the champ, 79, whenever it was.
Yeah.
Wasn't watching yet. And that's it. I grew up a fan. My father used to take me to the Garden all the time, Westchester County Center all the time, because I grew up in Nanuet.
Okay. Did you go to the Meadowlands, Brendan Byrne Arena? Did you go to the Meadowlands?
Yeah, many times. Went to Brendan Byrne. I was lucky enough, actually, when I wrestled Spike Dudley there for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship on one of their pay-per-views. It was the Brendan Byrne Arena at that time.
Yeah,
so
Brendan Byrne.
Pretty sure when I was like 11, 12 years old, it was, I believe, it was always Brendan Byrne.
Brendan Byrne.
And Brendan Byrne.
Was. Correct.
Maybe it was East Rutherford or Brendan, but something like that. Whatever it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So we used to go to the Garden mostly. I have been there for shows when I was a kid, but no, mostly it was the Garden or the county.
Okay. So what kind of made you in high school decide you want to do the wrestling route? What made you say, I'm going to do this thing as a living?
Well, I mean, everything works out for a reason. So I wrestled also in high school. I wrestled like middle school and everything. I was captain of my wrestling team. And when I was a senior, now I was always a wrestling fan, but back then, now you could push a couple of buttons and get into the business. I didn't know anybody. I knew nobody. So I was captain of my wrestling team, and they used to send the captains and a couple other guys up for practice in the summertime to go work out. And that week we were gonna train with at the time was Kenny Monday. Kenny was a big, Olympic guy at the time and stuff like that, big star. And there was a bunch of other coaches too, but he was like the main guy, So when we go up there, we start training, and somebody finds out that there's a pro wrestler that's one of the trainers. Like he's a high school wrestling coach and stuff like that. So somebody sees me, and right away they know I'm, a bunch of guys, they knew I was a wrestling fan. Like, oh yeah, there's a wrestler coaching. He's a professional wrestler. I said, what do you mean a professional wrestler? Like WWF at that time, So they're like, yeah. I said, what's his name? They said he used to wrestle as the Executioner. So I'm like, the Executioner. Now, then I didn't know there's 80,000 Executioners. I'm thinking, Executioner. I'm thinking, all right. Now I'm 19 at this time, but still, I'm not smart to the business. I'm still a fan. This is still, early 90s and stuff like that. So, cause I was still high school. I was in high school. So so I gotta go find this guy, see who it is. So sure enough, I find this guy, and I'm like, and I go, "You're a pro wrestler?" Just like a mark, looking at him. I'm like, he goes, "Yeah." And we talked to him about wrestling. He's like, "Listen," he goes, "You're still in high school." He goes, "If you're interested in being a wrestler," he goes, "I just started a wrestling school, and it's still around. And I go up there all the time." No, I don't go up there all the time. I hang out with the guy that owns it. I go up there, sometimes to hang out. He has parties. It's Gino Caruso.
Oh, okay.
ECPW is called now, but I was one of his first six students. So anyway, he opened the school with Gino, him, Rocky Jones, Mike Masters, God bless him, he passed away, and Jerry Fazio, and that's who that executioner was. So he goes, "Listen, you're still in high school. I opened the school." He goes, "You just give me a call when you graduate if you're interested, and I'll let you know from there." So I said, "Okay." So I took his number and everything, and I continued on, finished the camp, went through my high school year. And as soon as I graduated high school, I called him up in the summer, and I said, "Listen," I said, "I want, this is James. I met you up there. I want to, try this wrestling thing." He said, "All right, come up to, Parsippany, New Jersey." And I went up to Parsippany and met him and Gino and Rocky. They told me how much it was, and I was going to have to make payments. And that was it. Then I started up there, Gino Caruso. That was like 1990, 91.
Wow.
91.
We
Like
have the Monster Factories up here in New Jersey. We have the Monster Factory.
Yeah, I heard of that. Like, I never heard of the Monster Factory when I started up there. Again, I never heard of any wrestling school. This is early 1990s. I didn't know the Monster Factory. And even to school now, it's in the same exact place. But now it has a big sign, Pro Wrestling, ECPW, like they all have. It was like hidden and had no, the doors were covered up and stuff like that. Like I pulled in, I thought I was at an empty building. It looked like it was a like a not homeless. It was like, vacant.
Yeah.
I'm like, where is this place? Because they didn't want nobody knowing there was wrestling in there, school, wrestling business changed after that. And Gino runs shows, that guy over there all the time. He used to run the shows all the time there. As time went on, things changed.
When you were training, were you smarting to the business, smarting up, kayfabe alive? Did you know what to do?
They kayfabe me. Like, I mean, they knew, like, one thing about me was like I knew how to wrestle. I knew how to take care of myself. So it wasn't like a guy that came in that didn't know anything, so, and I was cool with them. They tested me a little bit, what I mean? They were my trainers. I wasn't friends with them. And no, like Kodiak Bear had a big part in my training too. And Gino and like I said, Rocky, Fazio. No, they kind of just, they never, I can't say, they weren't like Johnny Rods on me. I can't say that. That happened to me later on in my life when I went and did UWFI. And I started with Billy Robinson, and I started learning how to do chokes and arm bars and something. That's something totally different.
Okay.
But no, they didn't. I wasn't like, I didn't break in like guys, Dreamer and Taz and those guys, they all broke in through Johnny. So I know back then too, Johnny was probably like a little rough on them and, trying to do it the old school way, I would imagine. But no, I got to be honest, nobody really messed with me. And they took a liking to me because they see I love pro wrestling, and I was embracing him when it was, not knowing what I was doing. I was a pretty quick learner and stuff. So no, I never got stretched there.
Okay. Well, you were a shooter, correct?
Yet in life, I was 3 years in and then started getting stretched.
Okay. You were a shooter, correct? You knew how to shoot.
Well, I learned because I had the amateur wrestling part done. That's what we can get to that. I'll tell you that real quick. But no, that's how I got involved in pro wrestling. I started doing independence, and then I was at Gino's wrestling school for about 2 years or 3 years, and then a phone call came to his school asking I guess they found out about this wrestling school up in New Jersey. Now, this is 1990. I'm going to say 1994. I've been training as a pro wrestler. I was working in a bar. I was working at pizzerias, doing a wrestling, training 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and then I had to make money too, and then so a call comes up to the school. They were seeing if anybody was interested in going for a tryout in Nashville, Tennessee for this shoot wrestling. I never heard of shoot wrestling. I didn't know what it was. I'm like, shoot wrestling. So somebody got to me and they're like, "Oh yeah, you know how to wrestle, it's this." And I said, "Oh yeah." So what is it? I said, "It's some group called UWFI. They were just debuting on pay-per-view too. This is before UFC, before all that stuff was coming out. It was us and I think Pancreas. Well, not us, wasn't there yet, but it was UWFI and Pancreas, which was a work shoot in the end anyway. But so I got that call, and I went down. There was a whole group of us, and I was the only guy that they kept or was willing to keep and pay to train with them and become part of UWFI. So I had all the trainees. I was the only one that made it with them. And what it was, and I guess now I guess I didn't know then, you get called getting stretched. They had like Billy Scott, Gene Leidick, a couple other guys, shooters, now legit shooters. Now I know how to wrestle. I was got the wrestling team, but when you add shooters, meaning guys that know those chokes and arm bars, and they can turn you into a pretzel and make you scream.
Mm-hmm.
Amateur wrestling, the object is not to go more than 45 degrees, and that's what I'm used to. I don't know what I'm about to encounter with these guys. I didn't know. I thought I was wrestling these guys. Next thing you know, they didn't say, "Okay, we're gonna go down. I'm gonna choke you out." They didn't tell me any of that. They just did it, and I, against my will. Because I knew it was going to be a real wrestling match. This is during practice though, but it was shoot style. So they were telling me shoot style, but they didn't explain that about the submissions or anything until Billy Scott. Those guys just were manhandling me because they were great wrestlers too. But now they start choking you out and putting these arm bars on you that you don't know where they're coming from, and you're tapping and not just letting go and letting you up. They're just switching to something else, and then switching to something else, and then switching to something else, and you just keep tapping. That's when I learned. I didn't even know they were shooting on me. I didn't even know that those terms. I didn't know what was going on. That's how I told this story a million times already, how it all started. And then after a while, they ended up accepting me, but they put me through the mill and made me suffer for a good amount of time until I'm not gonna get the whole thing. But I ended up quitting, and they ended up telling me to come back. Then they ended up training me because they saw I had enough. That I wasn't going to take it anymore because I wasn't learning anything for about a month. And you're just shooting on me, stretching me, and then taking me out to eat afterwards. And then doing it again and doing it again. And after so much, it's different. They started to teach me. They brought me into one of their own. Then they were paying for my apartment down there. They used to pay for my food, and they would pay me every time I go to Japan. I would get a salary for the match, and I would go to Japan like every 3 weeks. And that's how that started.
Okay. How did you get into ECW?
So ECW was squeezed in before I even went to Japan. Before I went to Japan, when I started training with Gino Caruso, I met Tommy Cairo. Tommy Cairo used to. This is like 1993. Ty Gordon was opening Eastern Championship Wrestling. So I was training at the wrestling school before that phone call came into the school about Japan. That didn't even happen at that Tennessee. So Tommy Cairo goes, "Hey, listen," he goes, "I got in touch with this promoter, Todd Gordon. I got an opportunity to wrestle for him in Philly. He told me to bring somebody to work with. I want to bring you." I said, "Sure." So I go there. I meet Todd Gordon. We wrestle this match. I was wrestling as Damian Stone at that time. That was my wrestling. Precious Damian Stone. And after that match, Todd Gordon liked the match, he liked everything. Then he used to then run Sports Club and Aztec Club and all those bars out there. That's where I met Sandman and stuff.
Okay.
After that match, he started booking us in all those other places, all in Philadelphia, the 3-4 different spots, a lot. It was the Super Destroyers were there, AJ Petrucci, Nikolai Volkov was working. This is in South Philly, but it was Eastern Championship Wrestling.
Yep.
I was doing that, and I knew Todd and stuff. And then Eddie Gilbert was starting to come in and all that. And then I got that opportunity to go to Japan. So I left there. So I already knew Todd Gordon and everything.
Okay.
So you're getting into how did I get into
then you came back.
Right. Got into ECW. So I already had the connection there. So when I went to do the UWI thing, once that was totally over, I came back. Now ECW was turning into Extreme Championship Wrestling. It's like now it's like 1996, doing their thing. They're just starting to get noticed. They were only going to Philadelphia and New York and stuff like that. It was it wasn't going out. Not even to Boston yet. It was still becoming new. So when I came back, I knew Tommy Dreamer and Taz. Going back to those 2 years, 3 years when I was doing independence, right when I was training with Gino, I would work for the Savoldis. I met Dreamer and Taz for IWCW up in Jersey. And I wrestled with those guys the same amount of time I've been wrestling like the ECW stuff, with Todd Gordon. They weren't even doing that yet. They didn't start there until later on. And that's why I'm explaining the story, because that's how I got in. So I already knew Dreamer and Taz from before I even went there. after UWI closed, I came home. ECW started, and I met Pablo Marquez. I went to Puerto Rico to wrestle for Carlos Colon, and I saw Pablo, and he's like, "Hey," he goes, you know who that is, Pablo Marquez?
Yes.
He was the rookie there, and I met him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this ECW thing." I didn't know that he was doing it because I didn't really see too much of it. I knew it was changing over. It was on the local channels. I was away doing other things. And he's like, "Yeah." I go, "Yeah, I hear about it." I said, "It's EC Extreme Championship Wrestling." He goes, "Yeah, Dream is there, Taz," which I knew those guys were there. I said, "Oh man, it's cool." I said, "Hey, tell those guys I said hello, blah blah blah." Now again, I had good relationship with them, Ray. Not a good relationship, but I worked with them for a couple
Yeah,
of years.
you worked with them. Yep.
Stone was. I did jobs for them for years for him thrown around IWCCW. So then we went home. I went back to Puerto Rico a couple of weeks later. They did another couple of days. And Pablo was there. And he goes, "Yo, I talked to Taz and Dreamy. They said, come down to, Dreamy said, come down to Lost Battalion Hall. He wants to introduce you to Paulie." They were doing Lost Battalion Hall.
Yep.
I met Paulie yet, and I didn't know who he was, but I was, wrestling. I said, "Oh, okay." So I went home and everything. Show came up. I went to the Lost Battalion Hall. I said hello, Dreamer and everything. I go up to Paulie. I said, "Hey, how you doing? My name is Damian Stone." His first words were to me because he knows who everybody is, And I was wrestling. He's from New York. He only lived 20 minutes from me. I didn't really know that at the time. And he knew all the guys that were doing independents for Tommy D and the Savoldi's TV. I didn't know he knew who it was. So he's like, "I know who you are." Like, made me feel very comfortable and, embraced me and everything. And then that's how I got in there. Then I wrestled as Damian Stone. He didn't give me the little Guido name yet. JT Smith just started doing the Italian gimmick. He was doing the FBI. He was the original. Everybody thinks I'm the original. JT Smith is the original FBI member. He was doing the full-blood Italian thing. So after I met Paul there, they started booking me on all the shows as Damian Stone. No character or anything like that. So, and we were running at that time like twice a week. I think it was like every Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday. That's all we were running, doing TVs or whatever. And as time went on, Paulie would always be like, "You remind me of a Joe Pesci type guy, small guy, but hungry, could fight, big mouth, but small person, like that guy." And he kept saying this to me, And week after week, which was good. Like he just kept saying, "He goes, you might," like he didn't have anything cooked up yet, I guess, But I remember he just would say that for a good couple of months. And I would just be doing Damian Stone getting hit by the cane, by Pillman. I was working with the Bad Crew as Damian Stone. I was just, just doing nothing, One day I walk into Lost Battalion Hall and Paulie comes up to me. He goes, "You're a little Guido." That's it. "You're a little Guido." I was like, "Okay." He goes, "You're going to be JT Smith's cousin. JT Smith, we're going to go out there. We're going to cut a promo." This is the same night Devon Dudley debuted. Same match. Wow. Same time. He was involved in my thing. So he goes, "JT's going to go out there and you guys are going to go out together, cut a promo. And JT's going to say that, he was hitting the head with a pan, woke up, he was Italian, and I'm his cousin, Little Guido. I'm from Damian Stone to Little Guido." So we went out there and cut that promo. You can pull that up somewhere.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Yeah. Little introduction of Little Guido from JT Smith. I don't know how you do it. And then we gave hugs, and now all of a sudden I was me as Little Guido and stuff. And then what happened was, I don't know, Bubba Ray Dudley came out first, and we did a little something with them, and then Devon Dudley came out. And Devon came out, started beating Bubba up, and they started getting into that schmaz. You got to go back. But then that was the night that Little Guido was born. That's how it all started.
You were over. I mean, when you were very over with the fans, when you were in the full-blood Italians. I mean, people loved it.
It started in South Philly, really. I mean, it started with JT Smith. I got to give him credit. JT Smith was over already. So when he was doing the FBI thing before Paulie put me with him, he was going out singing Sinatra. He was going out to the ring without me. Like I wasn't even a thought of yet, I don't think. I don't know where Paul came up with it. He came up with it that night. Came up, where he thought of it. I just walked in and he told me the name. He told me what we were doing. We went out and did it. But JT Smith was already over with the Philadelphia crowd. He was there for a very long time. JT was there when we were doing the Eastern Championship with Larry Winters. When me and Tommy Cairo were doing the shows, JT was there.
Wow.
So by the time ECW became Extreme and JT took a couple of hard bumps, the fans loved him. So I was lucky enough to get put into a group with a guy that was already over.
Wow.
So it wasn't like I was handed it with nothing. and had to go build it. And then me and JD, you know, we had a good chemistry. It was odd. He was like, "Come on, how are we cousins?" You know, you
Yeah.
obviously not cousins, you know, but we believed it. We embraced it. We, you know, did promos with the Rocky statue, did promos at Gino's, at the cheesesteaks, you know,
Mhm.
all that shit. Paulie did it with us, you know, that got us over, that made us funny. That's what he said. Went over. We could wrestle. We could take serious bumps. We could be comical, and I think that helped the FBI progress as time went on.
Yeah,
You know, we
definitely.
never looked for members. People just ended up leaving, and other people ended up fitting in. That's how you know, as far as the group went. You
Mhm.
know, as far as ECW. You know, once I
Yeah.
went to WWE, you know, I started on my own there after ECW closed. I was just doing like a little you know, of the cruiserweight
Independent.
stuff.
Yeah, cruiserweight. Yes.
Yeah, and then they pulled me out of that. And one day I did some stuff with Jamie Noble as a cousin, and then I was feuding with Crash Holly a little bit.
Hmm.
One night, I forget exactly who it was that pulled me aside, and they said, "Listen, they go, we're going to make you the back to the full-blooded Italians. We're going to use Chuck Palumbo and Johnny Stamboli. We're going to get the name down. We got to get copyrights, music, and all that stuff." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Which ended up helping me big time. Like I was in WWE for whatever 7 years, 8 years. The good thing was being put with that group gave me longevity, because for a few years I got an opportunity to work with all the top guys: The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle,
Hmm.
all those guys, because of my partners, managing them, doing 6-man tags with them. I was staying out of the cruiserweight division for a long time, and then once everything broke up, I fell into the cruiserweight division. But at least now it wasn't like I was there for 3 years already. Now that's why sometimes it's hard to hold your job as a cruiserweight. Sometimes, you
Yeah.
know, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, that's a long time. But
Mhm.
by being in the FBI group took a good amount of time away from me just being myself in the cruiserweight division, which I did that afterwards. But that's a lot harder. You're on your
Mhm.
own, you know, you can feud with so many guys, and they only have one belt. And, you know, well, they all have one belt, but you only have so many guys, so much time on TV, especially back in that era. You know, cruiserweight's got a segment. You
Yep.
know, lucky enough to get a 9-minute segment, and hopefully maybe a quick promo.
Yeah. Did you like ECW or WWE better? Which one did you like
Well, I
better?
love them both, because the ECW I grew up in, as far as I didn't know nothing about what the TVs was and how to work the cameras and stuff like that. Like, as time went on going out there. So, you know, ECW is more of a learning thing for me. Then going back to watching myself on TV to realize, oh, that didn't look good, you know, compared to just wrestling on the independent shows and never seeing it. And then learning from watching yourself. You do learn. I know a lot of people fail, you know, watch. I learn from watching yourself. When I learn, I look, I see what I like, what I don't like. Not so much anymore. I mean, but now I don't like anything I see what I do. Everything I look at.
How
But
was the wrestling hardcore? Did you like wrestling hardcore in ECW, like with New Jack? Did you like doing those matches?
well, let me tell you, I was very lucky with New Jack. I always got along with him. I traveled with him and stuff. Those matches were those matches. But, you know, New Jack never took any liberties with me. You know, he protected me as much as he could, hitting me with the games, the video games, the garbage cans. Believe me, you could be more brutal with those if you want to be. You know, he
Mhm.
always took care of me, but he had to lay it in too, because he had to make it look good. You know, he was very good when he let the FBI, you know, when Paulie told him we were going over on the belts. You know, they put us over on the belts that night. You know, we beat him and Coronis, I think it was, New Jack and Coronis, for the titles in
For the
ECW
title.
87. That was one of those matches. So, you know, we were doing those matches a lot with the golf club between the legs. But, you know, but I remember a lot of times we all used to go to the locker rooms at the shows and look for safe items to throw in there. So anything I ever wanted to throw in there, he would always let me put in there. Some guys he didn't like, he wouldn't let you do it, you know. So, but
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's crazy, man. I was friends with Balls Mahoney because he's a Jersey guy.
yeah, I love those.
Balls was a great guy, you know. Sad to see him pass. But what was your memories of Balls?
One of my first memories of Balls was when one time I came up to the wrestling school. Since he was from Jersey, I was in Gino's school. He probably he just finished doing Smoky Mountain, which at that time I really didn't know nothing about it. That was a
Oh,
well, now this is like 1994 or whatever. When did he do Santa Claus? What year was that?
oof, that's that was in the
It
90s, 96, maybe 95, maybe around there.
was a little earlier than that, because this was around 93 03.
It was in the early 90s. But I don't know what year.
Because when he got home, that was his first opportunity. I think it was like 95 because he was Santa Claus. Then he came to ECW in like 96.
Okay.
And
Okay.
but that was after Santa Claus because Ken Balls Mahoney. Maybe 97 he came to ECW.
Yeah.
So listen, I'm off by some months here. You know,
Yeah.
it was fucking 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember. So my first impression of Balls was I remember hearing of him, and I didn't really, because he was in Smoky Mountain, I didn't really know much about that. But I heard about this guy. I didn't hear about Balls Mahoney. His name was John Retner at the time.
Johnny.
John Retner, yeah. And I come, and this guy's sitting there, and he's looking at me, smiles, and he stands up, and he goes, "How you doing, John Retner? Nice to meet you." Shaking my hand. I'm like, "Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you." And I don't know who he is yet. This is before I knew who Balls Mahoney was. We didn't do any of that yet,
Mm-hmm.
And he was always very nice to me and stuff like that. Again, I always say that later, but what? I mean, I never really had big problems. So I know Balls since then. So those are my impressions of him. I traveled that man for years. Me, him, and Dreamer. I roommated with that guy. I did everything with that guy for years.
What about Spike Dudley? He was someone you traveled with?
Yeah, he was in my by me and Spike. I saw him a couple of weeks ago at TNA.
Oh yeah, okay.
He was there at the Bound for Glory pay-per-view. It was good seeing him again. Yeah, me and Spike traveled a lot.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. The highlight of your career, was it WrestleMania 20?
I've had a few highlights, but yeah, that would have to be the one, only because I grew up a wrestling fan. Said this a million times too. I was there for WrestleMania 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to wrestle in WrestleMania 20. But I wrestled at the Garden not a million times, but a good amount of times, 10, 12 times. But because it was WrestleMania 20 was my because it's WrestleMania. Whoever knew about, I was be there as a kid, number 1, and then number 20, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling with my parents there, with whatever, everybody in the suite. So that would have to be a highlight. Winning the Cruiserweight title in Italy, that was another highlight.
The tag team titles probably.
ECW tag team titles, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, highlight. I did that Hammerstein Ballroom.
Yep, Hammerstein Ballroom. I was there.
That was the tag team, and then in the ECW arena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you become a referee for a little while? Did that just happen? They needed a referee or something?
Yeah. They just called me. It was December 26th. It was one of those shows, and I live, exactly where I live. So I was home, and I got a phone call from I think it was Dreamer.
Oh, Dreamer. Okay.
Yeah, Dreamer's like Mark Carano wants to. No, I think it was Mark at the time. Forget exactly who did. He says, "Can you get to the Garden tonight?" He goes, "They need a break. Can you get to the Garden?" I was like, I look out the window, I'm like, man, I don't know. Maybe I should, I don't want to say no, And so I said, yeah, I think so. I said, let me leave now. Because it was still early, it was only like 1:00, 2:00. So there wasn't that much snow on the ground. It was more of a pain in the ass leaving.
I bet.
That pain in the ass, but it ended up working out. So they called me up, and I ended up showing up there, and I think it was Dean Malenko was there, and it was just a house show. John Cena was in the cage. I never refereed really before, except on fun, bullshit things, like playing around when I was practicing in the ring or something like that. I never put a referee shirt on and went out there and done 10 matches or whatever it was that night. And I came in there, I talked to the agents, to whoever was there and stuff. And I remember Vince McMahon was there that night. And he came to me and just asked how I'm doing and everything. What am I doing? And I told him what I'm doing. And he said, all right, thank you for your help and this, that, and the other thing. I said, I appreciate it. Nobody said much to me. The night ended, and like 3 weeks later, I think Johnny Ace called me up and asked how I'm doing and what's going on. Did I like it? Were the fans heckling me? And they were heckling a little bit, not to like, they mostly heckled me when the guys in the ring, they didn't even know who they were. They would be like, and then if some people look at you, be like, is that Guido? And I heard that, but I didn't react to it. I didn't look at them. I didn't put it over. I would just keep doing what I was doing. So it wouldn't gain any traction.
Correct.
When people were yelling Guido, I just wouldn't put it over. Or Nunzio, whatever they said. But it wasn't like the place was chanting it. But yes, I was hearing it. Hearing it.
We lost a lot of wrestlers, and we especially lost Hulk Hogan, one of the biggest names in wrestling. Did you ever work with him or have any dealings with him and Hulk Hogan?
Yeah, Hogan I worked with TNA because him and Bischoff were running it at that time. And you look back, Vince McMahon is the one. We did an on-air promo with Vince in the ring. Vince was cutting a promo on Mr. America, and me, Chuck, and he come to the ring, and we tell Vince, and then we put a hit list on the board and everything. Google it.
Oh, yeah,
and
check it out.
Trying to convince Vince to hire the FBI, and Vince does, and then we do like a little angle with Hogan. Not so much in the ring; it was a lot of backstage stuff.
Okay.
Like that. So I met Hogan when he was doing the Captain America stuff when I was in WWE, and then so I did some stuff with him, on TV as him as Mr. America, like a little stuff. And then I left WWE, and then he ended up going to TNA, and then when I went there and was bringing ECW guys in, I think Bischoff was there at that time, Hogan was there, so when I went in there, Hogan had a lot to do with it, having me there, him, Eric, and what's his name, Vince was also there at that time, and I worked there with them, so he was always cool to me. I never really hung out with him. It wasn't like me and him were going to the diner after the match, but during the shows, I would sit and talk to him.
Okay, cool.
I didn't talk to him for probably not that I never would call him. I never had his number, but obviously now, God bless him.
Yeah.
But the whole, that really. I would see him at work, really.
Yeah. Did you ever get offered to go to WCW when that was around, or no?
It's funny story there. The funny story there, and I've told this before. Now I don't know how true it was. Some word got back. I think Tony got back to me. ECW was closing. I guess WCW. We weren't sure about ECW at that time. They were doing the Cruiserweight thing. Canyon had a lot to do with that. I remember it got word back out to me that because they started doing the big tag team Cruiserweight thing or something. They were using all Cruiserweights. And word got back. I think maybe even through Tony was mentioned to me through Canyon that are they interested in it? They're interested in the FBI. They're interested in me. I never spoke to anybody about it. I don't know how true it was, but supposedly they were interested. And I remember and they said, "Would you leave ECW?" So I remember I asked Tom. I said, and I was truthful with Tom because Tom was at that point now. Me and Tom were very good friends, still are. But I'm just saying now it's 2000 when ECW was about to close, but we weren't sure yet. We didn't know what was going on. And I remember going up to Tom and just asking him, saying, "Listen, it might be an opportunity for you to go to WCW, but I don't want to leave. But if this place is going to close, let me go there." And he's like, "No," but only because he really didn't think it was going to close. Not that it mattered because WCW closed a month later anyway.
Yeah.
So do I? That's what I heard. He told me to go. He told me I stayed because he said it wasn't going to close. And so no, did WCW ever call me personally? No, but I had. Through Tony Mamaluke and Grapevine, there might be an opportunity for us. But no, that's one of the places I never worked. I've done, besides, I've done MLW, all that TNA, all that, WWE, I've done NXT, like all that stuff. WCW is one of the ones that I have done, like MLW, all those other ones.
Yeah. Do you watch wrestling today at all? Like the stuff on TV?
Yeah, as much as I could. Yeah. I like watching it. What's great about it is, I'm 53 now, so it is cool because a lot of guys like when I just left WWE, a lot of them were on the independents that I was meeting that I never knew one day they would end up in AEW or TNA and become pretty good stars. So so it's cool, seeing some of the guys, that will always, every time I come in the dressing room, always say hello to me, introduce myself, that they actually made it in the business and became professionals, So sometimes I forget. I got to look. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's him. That's good. Good for him.
Yeah. A lot of the generation.
I would always watch. I've been watching them 9 years old.
Yeah.
Wrong. It's not like I'm rushing home from the bar to put on Raw at 9 o'clock.
No. There's a lot of generation stars like, Scott Steiner's, Rick Steiner's sons in wrestling, the Usos. Would your son, Nick, ever consider following your footsteps?
I'm not really excited. He's been watching it from day one. He still watches it now. He's doing very well in school. He's on my age group. He goes up to Utica. He graduates this year. So his games are going up to his game this Saturday. But no, he's getting an education is what you need. That's people always ask me about advice.
Yes.
First advice would be, and I always told myself, I got to go to school no matter what. It had nothing to do with wrestling. Was if you're going to be in this business, get an education because you need
Yeah.
backup. Because 98% of the times, unfortunately, you're going to need the backup. More not, That's why I tell you a perfect example of that is Crowbar. When we were in ECW, Crowbar was doing his homework in the dressing room, going to school, going to college. And thank God he's so successful today. He has a great business. He makes great money. He does this wrestling. He loves wrestling. He goes just as hard as he did 30 years ago. He looks, and he's a perfect example of, he did well in WCW. He wrestled in ECW, does the independents. But at the end of the day, it's not enough for you to live for the rest of your life. So, I would never. My son's inquired with me a little bit, but nothing. I don't want to force him in it. Listen, it done very well for me. I love it, but you know what? It's a hard business. Between injuries and stuff like that, and so he's better
great.
outside.
Yeah. You do a lot of conventions where meet and greet with the fans and stuff, because I know a lot of them. Sometimes I see people see you there.
Yeah. I get booked for a lot of them. Some of them I don't do. A lot of them, sometimes people book me too close to the same places, and sometimes, it all depends. Sometimes you get saturated in an area where there's a lot of people, but they already got your autograph. How many times you get in the same place?
Exactly. Yeah. Who was favorite person to wrestle, would you say? Was one of your favorite people to wrestle?
I can't even begin to name one.
You probably sure got a lot, but is there someone you just clicked with in the ring? RVD, because you wrestled him a ton.
Oh yeah, I wrestled RVD a ton. Rob, he had his set of moves, so you got those. He was always, I don't want to say stiff, but stiff because of his style. His style stiff. That's he did the best he could to help you, but when he jumps in front of your face with the chair and kicks it in your face, he only can help you so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are always rough matches. But no, he was one of my favorites in a way too. Definitely, only because it was so easy with him because we knew the matches, but he's so over, and when you wrestle over like that, it's easy.
Yeah.
So we would wrestle, but you're in for a match.
Yeah.
Tajiri is super crazy, I'd say.
Oh, Tajiri, yeah, super crazy Tajiri. That's a good one. Yeah, they're really good.
Even Spike. Again, a character. He does his nutty thing. You stop him a little bit. He has his easy comeback. He just, he was easy. He was easy. Again, there's just so many of them. Even like you got Chavo and you got Helms.
Yeah.
You got so many great. I don't know something to name them because I'm not gonna name what Jamie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jamie Noble.
A million times. There's so many of them that are just hard to one.
The ECW locker room, I heard it was pretty wild back in the day. Was it pretty crazy compared to WWE?
Well, at the time I didn't know because I never been to WWE, so I never knew what that locker room was like.
Okay.
I've been to before ECW. I've been to as far as a company was UWFI, and their locker room wasn't like ours. Meaning before the show, there were people drinking, partying, but that was part of that atmosphere in the locker room. We had that going on in our locker room. That's where it was. In Japan, you wouldn't be drinking before the matches, but they'd be partying heavy after the matches. So yeah, it wasn't that bad. It was just just no rules. It wasn't. Compared to WWE, everybody's watching you. Nobody's watching you. It's just a bunch of guys. Everybody had their shit down when the time was right. But when there's no drug tests, there's nothing going on. People are partying, people are not partying, people are doing anything they want. So that was the and everybody was considered the misfits. Like I wasn't considered. I didn't consider myself a misfit yet because I didn't do anything in the business yet. In '96, I didn't get a chance to be a misfit yet. I don't think, and they would say guys that couldn't make it in WWE, and all these guys came to ECW and then ended up making it. It was just a recycle of the business, It was kind of like, send people to ECW. It's just the way it was. And they call us the land of misfits. There's mostly people that didn't make it anywhere. But then they come back here and then end up making it big time. So it was a launching pad for a lot of people. And that's just the way the business worked out. It was a launching pad to guys like me who was starting and was just learning. And it was a launching pad for other guys who have been in there a long time. And was caught up in the system and the way the business was, and one's getting the right push, and he didn't. But guys like Steve Austin, who was so frustrated, you know, he came to ECW. Paulie gave him a microphone. He was shoot mad, quite
Mhm.
obviously. You know, Paul took advantage and put him out there. And oh, there's a guy that came from, and he was a star before. He always could work. He always could do that. Things never worked out as far as his talent until that happened.
Yep. Yeah.
And that propelled him, and then he got a chance to shine, even though he had that way before. Nobody gave him the opportunity, you know.
Yep.
And he made it.
Yep. I wanted to ask you one quick question before we wrap up. Did you see the Independent when Rampage Sons hit that independent wrestler and knocked him out in the ring? What did you think about that? That was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy. I don't know too much about it. I don't know none of those guys. I saw the video. I don't know. You know, I don't know why I mean, first he hit him in the head with a can.
Yep.
Is that real? Is that, I don't know.
I don't know. They thought it was like a shoot.
I only know what I saw. I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, he just kept punching him in the ring.
Did anybody smarten the Rampage up and let him know it was a work? Like, I don't know anything. I just know what you know. But I mean, I think that was brutal what he did to him.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what happened before. But I mean, you know, what's going on with that?
Well, he did get arrested finally. He did get arrested for it, and he's getting charged.
But I mean, what is going on? Is he getting sued? Like, I know he got arrested.
He's getting sued by the family, and there's a lot of things going on. But that's all I know.
I also read that he's the guy that he beat up is doing better.
It is. Yeah, 100%.
That's what I read. But you know, and I haven't heard much about it until you just brought it up.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Well, you know, James, thank you so much for the interview. I appreciate it. Where you can follow you on Instagram at Nunzio.Guido, correct?
Nunzio_Guido.
Guido. Anywhere you're going to be coming up? So next.
/ and then Guido. No, I'm off for a couple of months. I've been going to my son's football games. So where I don't wrestle much. I just did one the other day because he had a bye. So I wrestled for Vic Delicious. Just had Poughkeepsie had a big show at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center.
Okay. What school does he plays at? What, Ithaca? You said what school?
Utica.
Okay.
Utica. So so September, October, middle of November, I don't take any bookings. So I ain't got much coming up right now.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again so much for your time. I really appreciate it. We'll touch base because I'm going to send you some stuff at your house.
Thank you.
Right, when I'm going off to Congress, brother.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thanks, my man.
All right. We off?
Hold on. We are off now. Hold on.
Started from nothing. Jersey streets, we owned it. Jay-Z pumping iron. Body builder coating. Beans on the